Well, by now, you may have gotten the idea that all ABA-based teaching interventions happen only at a classroom desk. And I can see that. That's pretty much all we've shown you. But as it turns out, there's much more to ABA teaching. Teaching also happens in what we call natural environments. That is, during the child's everyday life. Well, in this unit, we're going to learn what natural environments are, and we'll also learn about two approaches to help students make the transition from what can be seen as highly structured teaching situations in the classroom to that natural environment. So you ready? Well, let's go. Teaching a skill, especially to children with special needs, often starts in a classroom using tightly arranged tabletop procedures, as you've seen. Now, why do we do this? Because this kind of teaching lets us focus on the particulars of a skill without a lot of distractions, and it allows us to present repeated opportunities for learning until that skill's mastered. But it's also important to work on a skill in what we call the natural environment, away from the tabletop and even away from the classroom, because that's where that skill is going to be used. So what is the natural environment? Well, simply put, the natural environment is anywhere your student spends time as part of their usual routine and daily activities. This can be either on their own or with their family or friends. Now, conducting some of our teaching in these environments helps us to be sure that the skills the children learned with us in school can be applied outside of the classroom and with other people in the child's life. In ABA, we refer to this as generalization across settings. Generalization means that students can take what they've learned in the tabletop trials and use it in other situations. Now, teaching in the natural environment also helps with what we call skill maintenance. That is, we want our students to keep the skills they've mastered, especially after the teaching of that skill is ended. Now, I think it will be helpful for you to think a little bit more about what the natural environment means. And we're going to do that in the next segment with another learning object. After that, we're going to get into some detail on how we actually go about teaching in the natural environment. So we'll see you soon. Well, the first approach that we use to teach in the natural environment is to simply use discrete trial training. That's right. You can run trials in the natural environment just as you learned in the previous units, but the setting is different. It can be at home, at school, during playtime or snack time, or even out in the community. That is, whenever and wherever the target behavior would naturally occur. Well, Caitlin is back, and she's going to help us understand how to do this. Welcome back, Caitlin.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Let me ask you a question. How does DTT differ in the natural environment than if it's used in structured classroom settings?
Well, really the beauty of using DTT in the natural environment is that it gives the learner, the individual, to sort of generalize those skills that they've learned maybe during a tabletop activity or in the classroom to other settings and with different people.
Okay, very good. Do we still take data?
We do, absolutely. What's great about taking data in those situations is that it allows the instructor the opportunity to compare the data across settings to make sure that the skills are maintained and generalized.
Okay, to make this really clear, let's take a look at some examples, and I understand you have some.
I do. In this first example, Anna and Joey are in the play area in their classroom, and Anna has some toys on the floor, and she's generalizing a skill that Joey has learned. During some discrete trial tabletop activities, she has taught him to identify different colors. So while they're in the play area, she's presented some toys that are different colors, and she's asking him to identify them based on their color, thus giving him the opportunity to generalize that skill.
Sounds good. Let's take a look at the example.
How about the soccer ball? You know your sports. Nice job. Can you toss me the one that has blue and yellow? That's right. That does have blue and yellow. Nice job. I'm going to roll you the basketball. You rolled it back. That's right. How about toss the soccer ball in the bucket? Whoa, want to try again? Oh, close. You almost had it. Try one more time. You got it. Good job. Toss the one that's green and black in the bucket. That's right, that one is green and black. Wow. I'm gonna roll you the pink one. Roll it back. Good job. Here it comes again. Good job. Can you find the one that's red on top and blue on the bottom? How about the one that's red on top and blue on the bottom? Good. Now toss the one that's red on top and blue on the bottom in the bucket. Wow, that was great following directions. Here comes that basketball. I'm trying to bounce it like a real ball. There you go. Oh, nice toss. Toss me the one that's blue and orange. Oh, that does have blue and orange. Good job.
Well, that looked very much like DTT. Tell us about the antecedent, the response, and the consequence in that example.
So in that example, the antecedent was Anna presenting the materials and asking him to find the toy that was the particular color that she asked. For example, find the red ball. The response was when Joey either selected the correct colored toy or the incorrect colored toy. And then the consequence was either verbal praise or she withheld that praise depending on whether or not he made an error.
Okay, so it looked just like a DTT session, but honestly a little bit more fun.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, now I noticed something there. Anna was taking data. Is that common in DTT in the natural environment?
Yes, it is common. As I mentioned before, it is important to also take data during these activities when they are not, at the tabletop or wherever the skill was initially taught. That way you can compare whether or not the data that's collected in a different setting or with a different individual is representative of the data that you have for when the skill was initially taught. Again, just to see whether or not it was maintained and generalized.
Okay, very good. Now I understand you have another example.
I do. In this next example, I'm taking Joey to the vending machine. Joey has learned how to count and he knows how to identify coins. So when he says that he wants some water, rather than just getting him a cup of water, I take him to the vending machine and I ask him to count the number of quarters that he needs to get a bottle of water.
Okay, well let's take a look at that one.
All right, find the water. Awesome, nice, that is the water. Okay, can you find 5 quarters? Awesome. That's 5 quarters. Good. Let's get you that water. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Press the water button. Nice. Awesome. Nice job. Let's go have some water. Okay, Joey, here we are. Find the water button. There it is. Awesome. Let's get you that water. Hey, Joey, can you find 5 quarters? Let's try it again. Joey, find 5 quarters. That's 5 quarters. Ready? Find 5 quarters. Awesome, much better, good. Now we can get you some water that you gave me 5 quarters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Cool. Can you press the water button for me? Nice. All right, Joey, can you find the water button? Awesome, good. Let's get you some water. Joey, can you count 5 quarters? Awesome. Nice job. Good. That is 5/4. Let's get you that water. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Perfect. Can you press the water button?
Okay, another great example. Now, like the last one, let's break it down and understand exactly what the antecedent, behavior, and consequence was.
Okay, so the antecedent was the presentation of the quarters, and I asked him to count the number of coins that he needed. His response was counting the coins, and in some cases he counted correctly, and in other cases he made errors. And then the consequence was either telling him that he did a great job and providing that verbal praise, and then presenting him with the water, or telling him to try again and to prompt him to count them using a gestural prompt.
Okay, so I noticed in this example and the previous one that error correction was used. Is that common?
Absolutely. Just like you would if you were in a classroom setting or sitting at a table or wherever you're training a skill, you want to always use an error correction procedure just to sort of make sure that those skills are being maintained and that the student is responding as prescribed or as they should be.
We talked about data collection in the last one. What about in this one? I would think it would be a little more difficult under these circumstances.
Definitely. So in this example, since it was only one trial, I actually have my data sheet in my pocket. So since I know that Joey's able to walk independently in the hallway, after he got his bottle of water and was walking down the hallway and was opening it, I was able to walk behind him and just write real quick on my data sheet whether or not he responded correctly. And what's great about that is that I didn't have to interrupt him. He didn't have to wait to access his reinforcer for responding correctly. I didn't take any instructional time away from him. I had enough time walking down the hallway to just jot down really quickly how he did since it was only one trial.
Okay, good. That's very clever and no disruption.
That's right.
All right. Well, I thought those were really good examples, and I mean the same principles of DTT incorporated into the child's natural routines. Well, up next, Caitlin and I are going to talk about a different type of approach to teaching in the natural environment, and that's called incidental teaching. Well, now that you've learned about DTT in both classroom, tabletop, and more natural environment settings, we're going to talk about a more spontaneous and child-initiated kind of teaching, where you take advantage of learning opportunities that occur in the natural environment. And that's called incidental teaching. Now, incidental teaching is a way of teaching target behaviors in a child's everyday situations and routines. And unlike DTT in the natural environment, incidental teaching focuses on target behaviors and skills that naturally come up during a child's routines. And importantly, it's the child who initiates the opportunity to perform the target behavior or skill. And they're doing so to earn a reinforcement that that behavior would naturally produce. If there aren't that many teaching opportunities that occur naturally, the teacher can build them in. Well, Caitlin has a lot of experience with this, so I want to turn to her. Caitlin, can you give us an example of an incidental teaching situation?
Sure, I can give you an example from just the other day when I was at work. I have a particular student who was learning to ask for help. So when we went to the cafeteria and he asked me for some water, rather than get him a cup of water, I got him a bottle of water. So I sort of thought ahead and knew that he would need to ask for help to get the top off of the bottle. So in that situation, I sort of contrived a situation where he would need to demonstrate that skill in a setting outside of the classroom.
Okay, so you didn't wait around for the opportunity, you actually built it in.
Right.
So what was the natural reinforcer in that particular situation?
So what was great about that situation was that he wanted the water. So once he asked for help and I helped him to take the top off of the bottle, he had that naturally occurring reinforcer right there.
Now, could a program like that be written into a teaching plan?
Yes, typically after a student masters a skill, either while working at a table or in a classroom, it's very common to sort of program for generalization, which means that you sort of want to build in opportunities like the ones that I just described so that the student has the opportunity to demonstrate whatever skill he or she has recently acquired in different settings or with different individuals, and that sort of helps it to maintain across settings and over time.
Okay, and I think you just described very well why we don't just directly instruct the student in that situation.
That's right.
To help us better understand what incidental teaching actually looks like, Caitlin has some examples, right, Caitlin?
I do, yes. In this first example, Joey and I are outside during snack time, and he's been working on requesting items. So knowing that he's working on requesting, when we went outside and we had some pretzels, rather than putting the pretzels right in front of him where he could reach, I put them off to the side so that he would have to ask before I gave him one.
All right, well, let's take a look at that example.
Pretzel, please.
Sure. Here you go, Joey.
Pretzel, please.
Okay.
Pretzel, please.
Sure.
Pretzel, please.
There you go. Pretzel, please.
Pretzel, please.
Good.
Pretzel, please.
Here.
Okay, that was a good example. Now, tell us about what was child initiated.
So in that example, even though the pretzels were in front of Joey, he had to initiate by asking for a pretzel before I provided him with one because I had placed them out of his reach.
Okay, and I noticed that you used some prompting as well. Is that done in incidental teaching?
You definitely want to make sure that the child is responding accurately, so if that requires a prompt, then those should be delivered as needed.
Okay, so if it was child initiated and you had to do some prompting, what's the natural reinforcer in that situation?
The natural reinforcer would be what he was asking for, and in this particular situation, it would be the pretzel.
All right, so I understand you have another example?
I do, yes. In this next example, Megan and Anna are in the play area, and they're just sort of playing. It's sort of a break in between work, and Anna's blowing some bubbles, and Megan has been working on requesting, so sort of to take advantage of this naturally occurring situation, Anna starts waiting to blow the bubbles until Megan requests first.
Very good. Well, let's take a look at that one.
Look,
Bubbles.
bubbles. Do you like bubbles? All right, let's blow some. Whoa, it popped on me.
More bubbles.
More bubbles. All right, here we go. Whoa, it popped on me.
More bubbles.
More bubbles? Which kind?
Big.
Big bubbles. Let's try it again. Oh, you popped it. Good job.
More bubbles.
More bubbles.
Big.
Big ones, okay. Pop.
More bubbles.
More bubbles. All right. Pop. Oh, I got it. Pop. Oh, look at you stomping on them. Great job.
More bubbles.
More bubbles. All right. Whoa, that was little ones. Look how tiny they are. So little bubbles.
More bubbles. Big.
More big ones. Excellent. Whoa, it popped right in my face.
More bubbles and big.
Okay, nice job. Whoa, that was a huge one.
Okay, another great example. How is that a transition from what she might have been working on in the classroom setting to this more natural play setting?
Well, in a more structured setting or with a more structured lesson plan, she might be working on requesting particular items at particular times. So what's nice is that during this break activity, it's sort of a different part of the classroom. Maybe she hasn't worked with Anna yet that day, so it's with a different person. And it might be different materials. Maybe she's working on requesting food in particular or a particular item that she needs to complete an activity, say maybe a puzzle piece. So this, again, just sort of allows her to generalize that skill.
Okay. Now, something that I think is very important from the previous example and from this one too, how is data collection done under these kinds of situations?
In this situation, it might be better for someone else to take data on the number of learning opportunities and how the child is responding. I think that sort of just doesn't interrupt the flow of the interaction with the student as much.
Okay, so data collection goes on even though it's an incidental teaching situation.
Absolutely.
Again, I got to tell you, great examples, and I want to thank you so much for all of your help.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Well, in the next section, we're going to continue to explore ABA teaching in the natural environment through another learning object. So, we'll see you there. Now, one of the reasons we're interested in using the natural environment as much as possible is because it matters in the everyday lives of our students. So, there are many different areas of development and learning that we focus on with our students. Some of these areas have common challenges that can be addressed with ABA methods. Using effective teaching procedures and giving the students a chance to learn and practice these skills in these areas can greatly improve their independence and their self-care and their quality of life. In the next learning object, you'll see, we have 2 stories for you to explore. You're going to read about some genuine and distressful challenges that students and their families face. And we think these stories will help you understand the positive impact that well-trained and perceptive teachers can have on a student's development and growth. Well, that's the unit on teaching in the natural environment. The take-home message, it's this. When teaching a skill that may be difficult for one of our students to learn, we sometimes start teaching in the classroom because it's free of distractions, and we can provide that student with lots of practice through many sessions. Now, once that skill is mastered, we then move DTT sessions out into the natural environment or conduct incidental teaching sessions where we can maximize generalization of those skills. Now, while it's the behavior specialist who plans natural environment teaching, you, as an ABA paraprofessional, will be one of the important team members to help carry out those programs. Now, that wraps up our course on the fundamentals of ABA-based interventions for children with autism. But there's just one more unit I'd like you to visit, so I'll see you over there.